I'm so tired after a day of doing nothing. I don't understand why I'm tired so often. I'm just very tired. I don't know. Oh my god. What's there to even talk about? What do I care about, honestly? Should I talk about the Lindsay Clancy case? That was actually really interesting to me. Just because people are fucking crazy. People are fucking insane, and by people I just mean women. The women that think what she did was fine are fucking crazy. And there's even tons of specialists, like a psychologist and some other dude. They were like talking about how she might be innocent because she had a psychotic break. The thing is, you know, Candace Owens is kind of right when she says pharmaceuticals are bad. Because Big Pharma is very bad. In my opinion, it's very, very bad. You should not rely on SSRIs or pretty much any medicine, any kind of chemistry. I mean, the thing is, it might be effective. It might be effective for some people, you know. I think it isn't very clear cut that like all pharmaceuticals are bad, and maybe even all psychotropic pharmaceuticals aren't bad, but you have cases where people who are on them commit suicide, or they commit mass shootings. So it's like, okay, why is it a double-edged sword exactly? Kind of fucking weird. But I don't agree with Candace Owens when she says that Lindsay Clancy? She says Lindsay Clancy is not guilty, and I completely disagree. Lindsay Clancy is obviously guilty. It's like she strangled her 3 kids one by one. 4 minutes. It's like 4 minutes of strangling a kid and then moving on to the next kid. And all the arguments they pose, they're just not good enough to just say that, you know, she wasn't in control of herself. There was a male voice in her head. Of course, it had to be a male voice. It was a male voice telling her to kill her kids. Gotta find some way to blame men. The imaginary man in my voice told me to kill my kids. Holy shit, my teeth are... Ew. Oh, God. Are my teeth really yellow? I think they are. Yeah. Oh, well. No, but that shit's actually fucking hilarious. Oh, I want to make a joke that I can't say on YouTube. It's like, listen, there have been crazy people in the past who've committed murders and they did not get away with the insanity plea. They're like, they're all fucking insane. If you kill someone, of course you're fucking insane, right? What kind of plea is insanity anyway? It's like, I don't know. I don't know. If you're insane, maybe just don't have kids, I guess. If you have postpartum depression, like if you have postpartum depression, if you have postpartum psychosis, because you're a woman, and I guess all women just want to have a mental illness to blame their misery on. Maybe don't have kids. Maybe you should just legally not be allowed to have kids, because if you are not going to be accountable for murder because you have a mental illness, then probably maybe all people with mental illnesses should not be allowed to have children, right? No, of course it doesn't work that way, um, because women need all the privileges. They need all the privileges. They need to be coddled like they are mentally disabled people. But also they need to be respected as though they are totally capable and normal. And yes, they can have it both ways. And if you disagree, you're a misogynist. Yeah. Obviously, she should be locked up. She should be locked up. Should she be receiving psychiatric care? I think no, honestly, because I think the medications are probably just going to make, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what the medications do. Like, nobody knows what the medications actually do anyway. But, yeah, she should just be locked up so that she never has kids again. Because she's literally just gonna fucking murder them again, so. Pretty simple. Fucking male. Of course it had to be a male voice, right? Just like making shit up. It's unbelievable. Sure, mental illness is real, but you can't actually quantify it. You can only have a subjective opinion of a quote unquote professional who has studied, behavior. Whatever the fuck that means. Like, if it's really all subjective opinion about how they diagnose you, and then they slap some kind of label on you, and then they try a medication, they're not really sure what it's going to do. But they just try it anyway. Because why the fuck not? They get paid to do it, I don't remember what my point was. I don't remember the point I was trying to make. I barely even remember what I was talking about. What was the point I was trying to make? Damn. Hold on, let me think for a second. This apparently, like, I just found out about this case. I might have seen it like very briefly years ago, but this is a 2023 case. So this was a while ago. But I just found out about it. And there's no reason it should be going on this long. There's no reason to be lenient because she's admitted to doing it. There's clearly lots of evidence that point to her doing the act. I don't know why some people argue that it was her husband doing it. Like, it very clearly wasn't from the information, from the testimony, from the evidence. This music is distracting me. It shouldn't have been, she should just have been in prison for, I mean, I understand that she was probably really miserable and really depressed. But, who the fuck isn't? You need. And the reason I think, I'm like going on a tangent. I don't even remember what I was fucking saying. But whatever, I'll go on the tangent. Okay, I was trying to say the trial should not have been going on as long as it has. She should have already been in prison for probably, I don't know, maybe 40 years. Makes sense to me. She should basically be there like most of her life. Most of the rest of her life. Because she took 3 innocent children away from this world. And the women that support her and like understand her, because they probably just do that because they themselves are miserable and they can see themselves, or they can see other people around them committing an act like that. And I mean, I think every human being is capable of murder. Some more than others. It was probably in our nature to be violent for millions of years just in order to survive. We had to kill animals and all that. At the very least, we had to kill animals. But these women that are okay with supporting her, and she fundraised like $1 million. Those women should probably I don't know, not be allowed to vote or something. Maybe they shouldn't have kids, I don't know. Like, there's clearly something weird that I really don't understand. That makes them think just because this person was crazy, they were okay in murdering their own offspring. Like it was an okay thing to do. Um, I mean, it just sucks that it happens. But how exactly does a how exactly do you lose control of yourself and your own body or mind tells you to murder? You know, how exactly does that happen? And I don't think there is ever going to be an answer, because the mind is too complex, and at the end of the day, all we can really do is try to mitigate stuff like this from happening. But I was kind of talking about this in another video where I was talking about how, are you really you? Are you really yourself? Do you have free will? Do you have agency over your own body? Because you kind of don't. You don't. You're not really. You know, you didn't choose where you were born, who you were born as. You don't choose your biology. You don't choose your gender. There's only two genders, by the way. And there's so much you don't have control over. And I would argue that, like, there has to be some level of accountability on the individual level, because who else is going to be accountable for it, for your actions? And these women want to blame other people for their own suffering. They want to blame this society, this patriarchy that's oppressing them, when in actuality, they literally, they think that way. They criticize the society that's actually been helping them very thoroughly, by the way, extremely thoroughly in Lindsay Clancy's case. A society that's been very supportive of women's lives, because because that's their only power comes from taking support, their only power comes from other people giving them power. You know, you really don't have all that much power over who you are, what you can do, what your mind is capable of. You know, you are who you are. You know, you kind of do need to take accountability. Both men and women need to take accountability of their own actions, and they need to be held accountable for their own actions. But at the same time, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like, obviously, being afflicted with depression and all that shit sucks, and it's not really your choice to go through that. It's not your choice to go through that. I don't know, my mind is kind of tussling with itself, trying to find the right word words to say, the right ideas to express. I'm not saying all women need other people to gain power, but typically, I think it's probably most, like, typically, generally speaking, women derive their well-being and their sustainability and their rights through a system that grants it to them. So in a sense, the patriarchy is real because men are the ones who have essentially more ambition for power, more ambition for dominance. So in this, in the vague sense, the patriarchy is actually a true thing. But you are literally not going to dismantle it. It's not something that's going to happen unless women can somehow change into men, which, by the way, can't happen. You can do some artificial shit and maybe it'll do a little bit of something, but you're probably just better off being who you were born as. I don't know. My brain is just saying, just leave everything be. It's like, who cares? Why feud over something? It's like, it's basically in God's hand, Everything's in God's hand. I'm not going to try to convince people of anything. I'm not going to try to force people of anything. My tangent isn't even making sense to me personally because my brain is just my brain, man. I'm probably mentally disabled. I am actually disabled, officially. But, it's just words. It's just words and labels. At the end of the day, it's just, your brain is just releasing chemicals and it's interacting with the environment and it's creating a hallucination. All of reality is just a hallucination. And maybe we're living in a simulation. 23 minutes, 24 minutes. I kind of want to just wrap it up, tie things together. It's interesting, I'm kind of in the middle where the kind of person I am is, I'm in this middle space where I don't particularly want to, I don't want to tell people what to do and control them. I don't want to argue with them. I don't want to compete with them. But I also don't really want to do anything for them either. I don't really, I don't know, I'm like kind of agreeable and disagreeable, just like in the middle. So it's kind of enjoyable when I think about contradictions, when I think about duality or some shit. I don't know. Wish I could understand my own brain. I wish I could change my own brain. To just get the feelings that I want. Just get the feelings that I want. Just everyone's operating on this flesh machine. Maybe the flesh machine is tied to meaninglessness, meaningless words, meaningless. It's all meaningless to me. I don't care. So meaningless. You know, maybe it's like we are literally tied to our biology, but it's kind of fascinating how we have like a history with essentially the universe like created us, you know. It needed to create us because there's only one outcome in reality. There's only one thing that can happen. And so in a sense, God is basically just all of us combined. It's just all of human consciousness combined and all of matter just combined into one thing. Like we're plugged into a machine. We're plugged into this source code. Yeah, I think I've trailed off my original topic. That's unfortunate. That's what happens when you just don't give a fuck. Your mind just trails off, and then you end up doing nothing, and then you end up accomplishing nothing, regardless of how much you want to change. And then you start thinking about why you were even created. You start thinking about what your actual motivations are. And you keep searching in your own body what your body is telling you to do. Sargon of Akkad made a weird observation where he was explaining how women have a body different from men, essentially saying that men have agency over their own bodies while women don't. And it's true in the sense where the uterus wants to conceive of a child, but it just doesn't make much sense to me. And he was trying to like explain like that might be the reason why women feel this sense of powerlessness over themselves, and they feel this sense of powerlessness in general, and they need to blame it on something else. Just biologically, it's in their nature to blame their suffering on something else other than themselves. But I think the same can be true for men too. Like, you know, The same can be said for men too, you know, I don't control what turns me on. I don't. You know, but I don't know. 30 minutes. I don't know where to go from here. In conclusion, nobody has any real agency. They just think they do. Nobody has any real agency. But that doesn't mean we can't hold people accountable for their actions and put them in jail if they rob someone or if they are black. Just kidding. I mean, if they commit a murder. Do 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 do. What am I talking about? God in the universe? 32 minutes? Bro. I feel like I haven't said anything. I'm gonna go to 33 minutes. I'm gonna talk about Metaphor Refantazio. What is there to say about Metaphor Refantazio? Oh shit. My disc isn't here. This is a pretty nice game. It's really fucking pretty. So this is actually, it's a, you know, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I'm gonna give this game a 7 out of 10. Maybe an 8 out of 10. Gorgeous, really beautiful game. Stunning visuals. It's like porn. It's literally just art porn. It's so good. The music is like orgasmic. It's so good. It's amazing. This is definitely, you should play this game. But that being said, the story is gay. I don't like it. The story is preachy and annoying, and characters talk too much. And they over-explain their emotions, and they over-explain the plot, and they come across as unbelievable as people. I never felt any connections for the characters in the game, simply because of how unrelatable they are. The gameplay is good. It's not perfect, but it's good. I don't think it's as good as Persona 5. I think Persona had a really good system where you can change your persona in the middle of combat. In Metaphor, you can't change your archetype in the middle of combat. And it's actually more important that you get the right archetypes in this game than it is that you get the right personas in Persona 5. For that reason, combat is actually pretty tedious, and I don't recommend playing this game on hard mode. The reason it's so tedious is because there are lots of enemies where if you do not switch to the correct archetype. If you don't switch to the correct archetype for particular enemies, and you don't have the exact synergy skills that are like actually good at defeating specific enemies, you're gonna get your ass handed to you over and over. And it's especially sucks against bosses, because you go into a boss room, right? I played this game on hard mode, by the way, like for the first time from the beginning to end, and effectively every time you enter a boss room, you should pretty much expect to lose. The first time you go in is just for information to figure out what the boss is weak to. And then you have to switch out. And then you have to die and then switch out to the correct archetypes. And unfortunately, you can't switch your archetypes in combat like you can in Persona. And not only that, but there are a lot of enemies in the overworld where, in the dungeons, when you come across them, you're like, oh, I need to have this specific synergy skill. So you fucking pause the game and then you switch your classes. And then you're like, okay, maybe I have the correct equipment I want. Okay, now let's go fight the enemy. And then a new enemy shows up and you're like, oh, this one's also going to be a problem. Let me pause the game again. Like, and it just breaks the flow of the game, and it's fucking annoying, and like, you should play this on normal. That's my review.